It's a dangerous love affair. Victories within the mind. Almost there, don't give up.
So, you know what we're going to do? See you in Fayetteville. See you in Fayetteville. Hawks by 9.
No good. Natty! Get the
Who's
buzzer!
gonna run this town tonight?
Now, entering Natty State Studio, the sports media palace of Mid-America, the Wolf of Center Street. Here's your host, John Nabors.
And welcome into the John Nabors Show here live from Natty State Sports Studios. Appreciate everybody listening in and watching in on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas, as I am your host, John Nabors, and appreciate each and every one of you for making us a part of your afternoon this afternoon, as we have a fun-filled show for you today. And I will admit, it's going to be a little bit of an abbreviated show, so just a heads up to everybody, because Arkansas basketball is going to be going off against LSU tonight at 6 o'clock at Bud Walton Arena. So we're going to have about an hour and a half of a show. Hopefully you guys can find a way to manage and get over it. But it's going to be great, because we're also going to have our post-game live stream show right after the Razorback basketball game coming to an end in the Bud Walton finale tonight. So we're going to have that and get into some other news and look at some spring practice stuff. And also Tyler Spoon, former Razorback great, will be joining us, talk a little baseball with him, all thanks to Bank of Fayetteville here in downtown Fayetteville. So looking forward to catching up with him. But for those of you who are jumping here on the stream, and I'm sure for all of you that are seeing exactly what's been going on with the Razorback basketball program, I do want to bring it up because it's something that gets brought up to me almost every day. I went to a restaurant last night here in local Fayetteville area, and it was brought up to me. It gets brought up to me on this show. It gets brought up to me by family members, by friends. It gets brought up to me each and every time I'm out and about. And the question simply becomes, who's coming back next year on this basketball team? Now, normally when you hear that question get asked, you think about it in the perspective of, well, who's a senior? Or who's got some eligibility left? Who's got a COVID year? Is there somebody that's going to come back and develop? What about a true freshman? Who's going to hit the transfer portal? Those are the questions that really get asked about basketball in each and every year under Eric Musselman and also here at Arkansas and just in college basketball in general. But this year and in this time, the question's not just about the basketball team as far as the players go. It's about the coaching staff. Let's address the elephant in the room, folks. You've been hearing the same things I've been hearing. You've been hearing about rumors speculating of Eric Musselman possibly leaving Arkansas after this season. All right, let's stop playing coy. Let's stop putting out cryptic tweets. Let's just all be very honest about it. It's what you've heard. You've heard it from somebody. I've heard it from people too. Let's just get it all out there in the middle of the thing. It is a rumor. It is speculatory. There is nothing confirmed. There's no evidence. There's nothing set in stone. But as the old saying goes, where there's smoke, there's fire. And I don't think anybody would be making something like this up or it becoming as widespread as it is simply for the sake of why not? We've seen games get played by coaches before. Sometimes you'll have coaches that feel like they need a raise. And so what are they going to do? Well, I'm going to have my agent, Jimmy Sexton, put it out there, and Jimmy Sexton's going to be rubbing elbows, be like, oh, I don't know, he might leave. Let's see if they pay us enough money. They may end up going. And it almost becomes laughable. It's like, oh, okay, whatever. And then a contract gets signed and an extension and a raise, and then everybody's hunky-dory. But I think in this particular case, are there some demands? Are there some things that maybe possibly somebody wants? Sure. I think in any negotiation, there's always going to be that, whether it's players or coaches or anybody. There's always going to be that element. But is it simply that? Is it simply a contract? Is it simply, well, I need this much more NIL for the players that are going to be coming in next year? Or is it simply just wanting out? Here's what I feel and think. Not what I know, but here's what I feel. I feel that the Arkansas Razorback program and the Eric Musselman relationship is still fine. The relationship is fine. There's no issues with Muss and Hunter Yurchek. There's no issues with Muss and any of the other administrators or boosters or donors or anything like that. That's not an issue. What becomes an issue in any of these particular circumstances is simply about the future. The future of Razorback basketball. That's what coaches want. Let's forget this whole season, all right? Control-Alt-Delete. It's gone. Think about the future of Razorback basketball. What does it look like? Well, it's still one of the premier programs in the country. Great facilities. You got great fan base, passionate fan base. You're in the SEC. You got a lot of money coming in from those revenue shares and all of that. It's a pretty good spot. One of the best spots. Still, to me, the second best job in the SEC, and it's not even close, behind Kentucky. So if you have all those things, and you're recruiting pretty well, and nobody's had more success in postseason than you have had with Eric Musselman, why leave? Well, there's always going to be other schools that can offer, or at least on paper, offer you something more. Maybe it's like, hey, you come here, we're still a really good school, but we'll give you more money, or we have this much NIL, or both, and we'll be able to front it to you, and then you just come here and coach. I mean, because what's the difference really, right? Whether it's Arkansas, or whether it's Louisville, or whether it's UCLA, or whoever, what difference does it make? Come on, we're going to offer you something more. And suddenly that becomes appealing to some, especially none that have any true, deep-rooted connections with any particular school. And that's not a knock against Muss at all. In fact, that's kind of what I like about him. Because all the great coaches that have come through Arkansas in all the sports, well, most of them at least, don't have deep-rooted Arkansas connections. Nolan Richardson didn't have any connection to Arkansas. Neither did Eddie Sutton. I mean, neither does Muss. Bobby Petrino didn't. Frank Broyles didn't. Lou Holtz didn't. So you got to start somewhere. But there's always going to be an appeal out there. And it's a matter of doing what's right by coaches and doing what's right for the future. But here's what's the problem, folks. And I'm going to be honest with you about this. And this is something Brandon Marcello and I talked about yesterday, which you didn't have a chance to check out that interview. You need to check it out. It was a great one. But with the ever-changing thing of college sports, especially in college basketball, which is a money-making, revenue-generating sport for most colleges, the future is completely and totally uncertain. We have no idea. Look how much college has changed. College sports have changed in just 3 years. Think back to the summer of 2021 to where we're getting close to now. Just 3 years. It's not even the same landscape. It's not the same sport. It's not the same thing. So if it's changed that much in 3 years, who's to say the next 3 years it doesn't change equally as craziness? I don't know. Crazy. It's a word. I made it up. I talk for a living. But seriously, who's to say that it's not going to change completely? So if you're somebody like Eric Musselman and you're looking towards the future of the program that you're employed by and the place you're employed by, and you're like, hey, I need some of these things as guarantees. I need a raise. I need an extension. I need this amount of NIL. I need this facility. I need these renovations happening. I need all this. It's not out of the realm of possibility. It's not crazy talk. It's not absurd demands or anything like that. In fact, I'd even argue that they're extremely fair, considering what Muss has done for the basketball program. Again, I know this year hasn't been great, but overall, in general, what he's done for the basketball program at Arkansas is as good as it's been. So I get for why he's wanting those things. Because with great success, you got to get a little bit more. But take it also from the perspective of the University of Arkansas, Hunter Yurchek, and look at it in the business sense and in the mind. The future of Razorback basketball is, of course, really bright. But if you're about to fork over $33 million to get Bud Walton renovated, and you commit to that, and you start on that, but here next summer, or maybe even sooner, suddenly laws are put into place to where college athletes become employees. And the universities start having to pay these players straight up as employees. You think that's out of the realm of possibility? It's not. And say if they have to do that, and say if they're still under the umbrella of the NCAA, and you throw in Title IX, which, of course, in said circumstances, whatever amount of money as employees that you pay from the university to these male athletes, you have to pay the equal amount to the female athletes. It's not a bad thing necessarily, but that's quite a load of money to be able to keep a lot of these sports going. And you can talk about how much money schools are bringing in, revenue generating from television deals and all of that, but you still have coaches, contracts, the amount of money that goes in there, the amount of money that goes into travel, the amount of money that goes into all of the athletics where, as we've known, football's paid for everything pretty much. Football and basketball, and in some cases baseball, depending on the school. That's what pays for all 19-plus sports across all campuses and all of college. That's what provides that. So if you're Hunter Yurchek and you're Arkansas and you're like, it could happen. Don't you think that $33 million would be best served to help you out and to be paying these players and these athletes instead of getting ahead of it and start building this facility and it's suddenly like, oh, no, we shouldn't have done and updated the facility because what's that going to get us if we can't afford to pay these players and pay these athletes? Not to mention the fact that if and when it happens that they become employees, there could be sports that start getting cut pretty quickly across all college sports. You know, the ones that are non-revenue generating sports. And I'm not saying this in specific of Arkansas, but you know, there could be track programs across the country that get cut. There could be softball. There could be golf. There could be tennis, swimming and diving. A lot of these sports that suddenly get cut because the schools can't afford to fund them anymore because all their funding is going towards the athletes where they're employees and they're having to pay them money. So if you're Hunter Yurchek in the U of A and you hear these demands or you hear what Eric Musselman is wanting and you're like, it's fair, understandable. You do deserve that, coach. But we have no idea what next year will look like or the year after that or the year after that. We have no clue what is going to be happening tomorrow. Because the way things have gone and the uncertainty, as a smart business person, and any of you who are watching this who are in business, if you're a smart business person, if you don't know what the future is going to hold as far as what you can and can't do, what's legally right and what's illegal, any of those things, you're probably going to play pretty conservative. You're probably going to stay pretty safe and just lean back and say, all right, well, let's take a breather and let's pan this out and go through some game plans of what we can do before we just start throwing millions of dollars in renovations and contract extensions and upgrades, because it could end up costing us even more to be able to provide student athletes with employment, which certainly seems like there's going to be that happening here soon. So if you want to know, when it comes back to it, if you want to know why there's probably some of this smoke that's been going on and why there are some of these questions that are getting thrown around, to me, there's your answer. It is simply because you have a future of not only your program and Razorback basketball, but just in college sports in general, that is so up in the air that you don't really know what to do. Because say if you're Arkansas, say if you do commit, all right, let's get Bud Walton renovated, $33 million. All right, coach, let's get you $1 million a year contract extension. Let's get you $2 million of NIL. Let's commit to that each year. And it starts building up. And then suddenly you sign those contracts, you write them out, you get it going, it's all hunky-dory. And then January 1st comes around of 2025, and suddenly there's been a law put in the land. It's like, all right, student athletes must be paid. Okay, well, where are we going to pay them from? Figure it out. Okay. Suddenly, everything changes. And if you had all those contracts and you had all those millions of dollars put in the work, you're kind of looking back and you're like, okay. Well, we're going to have to start cutting some things. Because here's the deal. You think that they'll just go to the donors and boosters, dealing with Razorback Foundation, you think they're just going to go and be like, hey, guys, I know that you guys have already given us millions of dollars for facilities and all these things, but we have this new law put into place, so we're going to need you to donate double. You know what those donors and everybody are going to be like? Absolutely not. Okay, so where are you going to go get the money? Hey, ESPN, television deals. I know we have this revenue sharing and streaming and everything, and it's going great. We get more and more money, but still to be able to provide with our student athletes of everybody that's able to provide this money, and on top of being paid as well, scholarships and travel and all that, we're going to need a little bit more. So can we get more money? No. Well, if you can't go out and you can't get the money, and if no one's going to pay you the extra money that you need, then guess what you do? You cut. You cut. And when you cut, and in this particular case, when they cut, it's going to be significant. Major cutting all over the place. I fear for the future of college athletics. I'm all about NIL. I love NIL in theory and in spirit. But I'm going to draw the line when they become employees. Because then all of the things that's going on with NCAA regulations, with the, being a part of the institutions and the colleges and everything, I'm not against it because I'm against anyone getting paid. I'm against it because it's going to absolutely destroy other sports. They're going to get cut. And there are going to be so many student athletes out there, potential student athletes, kids, high school kids that rely on these things as for scholarships, trying to get a college education, that are going to now be left holding a bag. You're a tremendous golfer. You want to be able to get in a college education just in case golf didn't work out. Well, you're going to have to pay for it yourself. Sorry. Or good luck on the tour. Oh, you're in swimming and diving? That's cute. Sorry. We have a pool if you want to swim in it, but you're going to have to pay your tuition. Oh, okay, you're a tennis player. That's awesome. Okay, good luck over there. Try to get in Wimbledon. Maybe you'll make it there. I mean, that's what it's going to become. And it makes me sad. It really makes me sad. I went on this tangent when, I know it's talking about basketball tonight. And kind of circling back and getting to the point of who's going to be actually returning next year. Who is playing and or coaching their final game in Bud Walton tonight for Arkansas and LSU? Again, I don't know anything. But here's what I'm hopeful for. Here's what I would like to have happen. What I would like to have happen is that Muss stays. I want Muss to stay. I want Muss to be here at Arkansas. I want him to continue to coach the way he's coached, to market the way he's marketed, to brand the way he's branded, and continue to make Arkansas basketball fun. I know it hasn't been fun this year. But just continue to build upon it, where he has become synonymous with Arkansas, and both are big-time household names. And we know that once you get to March, and once you've gotten into the NCAA tournament, Muss has been about as good of a coach as you have in college basketball. I mean, think about coaches that are really successful. Think about Rick Barnes. Like, Muss has made it pretty much as far as Rick Barnes ever has in 3 years. I mean, that's just not saying, this is not happening very often. So I hope Muss stays. I really do. I hope Eric Musselman stays. And as far as the players go, I don't sit here and say, man, I hope player A or player B stays just because it's been a rough year. So if they have a huge turnover in the roster, I'm not going to be upset. Caleb Battle's been a lot of fun to watch here lately, and hopefully he has a big night tonight. I'd love to see him back. I don't think he is, but I'd love to see him back. Everybody else, I'm not anti any player coming back, but I'm also not begging them to stay. But that's just the way this roster is going to be, and that's the way it's going to turn out. But if Eric Musselman doesn't come back, if he moves on, if he goes to Louisville, as everyone's been mentioning and talking about, I'll be bummed. I'll be thankful, but I'll be bummed. I'll say, you know what, Coach? I appreciate everything you did for Arkansas, and I appreciate you bringing Razorback basketball to the forefront of national competitiveness. I appreciate your fire and your passion for the sport. I appreciate what you did. I mean, that's going to be my approach. I'm going to be appreciative because I had fun, and I know you did too. But you know why I'm going to be appreciative? You know why I'm going to be thankful? Is because I know it's still Razorback basketball. I'm not fearful of when that job becomes open, who we going to get. I'm not fearful of that. You know, in football, when Bobby Petrino got fired, I didn't maybe want to say it, but I had a little bit of a fear of it because I'm like, man, how's as good of a coach as we could get? Think of Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin. When Lane Kiffin leaves, you don't think Ole Miss is going to be like, man, that's about as good of a coach as we could get. I'm not going to do that with Razorback basketball. Because to me, and I'm just throwing names out there, if Muss decided to leave, okay, come on, Chris Beard, let's do this. Or how about Tang, or what was his name from Kent State? Come on, let's do this. Shoot, even offer that crazy dude up at UConn, Hurley. I don't know if he'd come, but still. I'm that confident. I'm that cocky. I'm that arrogant to where I feel like, yeah, he'd come to Arkansas. You are still a great program. And when this job, if and when this job becomes open, you're going to have high-level, big-time, electric head basketball coaches chomping at the bit for this gig. Absolutely chomping at the bit. And you'll almost have your pick of who you want. And once you put that together, and once you establish yourself as that program, I no longer fear about a certain coach leaving. It's not always going to work out. I could have if you hire Chris Beard could come in here and struggle in the NCAA tournament, maybe not win games. You never know. You never know. But that's why if Muss ends up leaving, I'll feel okay. I'll be okay. I'll be fine. Because this is Arkansas basketball after all. This is Razorback basketball. That's the basketball palace of Mid-America over there. Arkansas is going to be just fine. That's what I know. That's not what I think. That's what I know. I'm rooting for you, Muss. I hope you come back. I really do. I hope you're the Razorback coach next year. And I hope that if Arkansas wins a national championship, I hope that it's you hoisting the trophy. But if you do decide to leave, Coach, thank you. Thank you for all you did. Wish you nothing but the best of luck. And I'll be rooting for you when Louisville plays Kentucky, if that's when you end up going there. It's sad, isn't it? That we're even talking about this, even bringing it up. But it's a thing. It's a thing people are talking about. We've all been discussing it. But here's my gut feeling, and I'll end on this because I know I've been rambling a bit. I want to get to all your comments, which, by the way, folks, if you want to get on the comment section, go ahead and chop it up, and we'll get to some of those here in a bit. But here's my gut feeling. My gut feeling right now, I think Muss leaves. I'm just being honest. My gut's wrong sometimes because, sometimes I feel like I have to go to the bathroom and I don't. And other times I feel like I don't have to go to the bathroom, but I do. So my gut is wrong on occasion. But I just feel like he's gone. That's my gut feeling. But I will happily be proven wrong. And I will happily own up to it. And I will happily be excited about the future of Razorback basketball under Eric Musselman if he indeed decides to stay. But I really hope Arkansas at least wins tonight against LSU. So the last game, the last impression, the last dance in Bud Walton Arena for this team, for these players, for these assistant coaches, and for Muss, if it ends up being the case, I hope it's a good one. And I hope they give the fans something to talk about too. Let's get to some of your comments, folks. Appreciate each and everybody listening in, watching in. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. We got a lot of people chiming in. Let's start with Nick here. Nick says, could you imagine NIL being used as a loan? Seems kind of fair. No. I get that in theory you want or thought that it could be something like that, but it's never going to happen because it's like an endorsement. It's a deal. It's a contract. It's kind of like signing a deal with Nike. It's not a loan. You're getting your name, image, and likeness used for your name, image, and likeness. Now, if and when they become employees, that's a whole different animal. Because then that can be something that can be regulated, that can be public, that can be known. But they're not employees just yet. Trey says, we know we have a good coach, though, so paying him seems important. See that? And I'm with you there, too, Trey, 100%. I'm with you. I think that it is extremely important when you have a high-quality coach. Don't ever let money be the reason why they walk. Never let money be the reason why they walk when you have a high-quality coach. Because that is the dumbest thing you could ever do. Because when you have success as a program, especially when it comes to the revenue-generating sports, that money you're paying those coaches ends up being a fraction of what they're going to bring in. So, yeah, never let – what was the old adage? Like, Nick Saban was the most underpaid coach of all time? Yeah, he was. He's making close to $10 million. Still was underpaid because of how much money he brought in. So, yeah, never, ever, ever let money be a reason why you cut coaches or let them leave. Never do that. Let's see. Sean says, in my opinion, it would be an awful idea that they can't pay off, that they can't even pay off loans now till they're grandparents. It would be worse with NIL loans getting paid back. That kind of defeats the purpose of what these kids need. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you, Sean. But Nick says, in response to Sean, I hear you. But like John said, if these student athletes become employees of the university, there are going to be a lot of sports cut of it, I think, even here at Arkansas. Yeah, again, I'm not talking about NIL leading to sports getting cut. I'm talking about if they become employees. Because just to be very clear, NIL and employees are two different things. Again, you got to look at it in the ways of endorsements. Look at it in professional sports. You know, LeBron James has a contract with the Los Angeles Lakers. Like, he gets paid with a contract with the Los Angeles Lakers. That's his employment. But if he signs a deal with Nike or signs a deal with McDonald's or whoever, that's an endorsement. Employment, contract, endorsement, NIL. That's how you need to look at it. And so everything I'm talking about has nothing to do specifically with the NIL. I'm talking about if the future holds it to where college athletes become employees. That is when a lot of that can be changing and all of that. Kingsley says, the gross misunderstanding of NIL is infuriating. John, can you explain club sports? If due to rule changes, some sports have to get cut, is club a viable option for transitioning them? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Kingsley. Because club sports, from my understanding, are funded by, pretty much like GoFundMes. I think the Razorback hockey team, which is actually pretty popular here in Arkansas, the Razorback hockey team, if I'm not mistaken, they rely on donations to fund it, to get them jerseys, to get them travel and everything. It's not paid for by any university or any institution like that. It's self-funding a little bit, like just fundraising. So if some of those sports became that, or they had to get cut, then yes, I believe that they would transition to that pretty easily. But you'd have to find people that would be able to fund that. I don't know how many people are going to fund swimming and diving here at Arkansas if it happened to get cut. Like, I don't know, maybe. But yeah, it would become that. So, seems a great explanation of NIL. People, hope you all are listening. Yeah, that's what I try to do. And then going back to your other comment too, Kingsley, about the gross misunderstanding of NIL. That's why I don't want to talk about it every day, all day, because then people kind of get bored of it and get tired of it. But I do try to at least mention it in passing and when we're discussing it overall and dealing with the University of Arkansas, because I have learned so much from NIL and talking with people about NIL, talking with not only student athletes, but talking with the people in the NIL department, talking with the people who run it, and not just here at Arkansas, but in other places too, talking to college football people like Brandon Marcello yesterday. I have learned more about NIL, I feel like, in the past 2 years than I have about podcasting and streaming, which is saying something. But it's a game that you have to play. You have to play the NIL game, because if you don't, you're going to get left behind. And you can't even have the image or any sort of stink around you that you don't do NIL, you don't pay your NIL, you don't handle NIL. You can't have that, because the second you have that, you're cooked. You're done. It's over. So definitely do not do that. But I like to talk about the NIL and helping people out. I'm not saying this, folks, as some sort of mouthpiece for anybody, for the U of A or something. Like, I'm not doing that. I'm doing this only because I want to share all this information with you so that it can help y'all out. As if, like, I'm not some, like, great educator or anything like that, because I'm not. I couldn't even spell most of the words I'm saying. But I think that it's just a place to where it doesn't get talked about enough. Universities don't talk about it. Foundations don't talk about it. Departments don't talk about it. It doesn't get promoted the way it's supposed to. And there's a lot of reasons why. Nobody wants to be legally liable for things that they say or do that may be a little shady. But also, people don't want to say anything that could be negatively impacted, but it's there. But that's the problem, is because, yeah, there's certain rules, but different states have certain rules. So these schools can do this, but that and the other. But then there's other schools that can do more, but they're not going to promote it because it is a little shady, at least in some places, but it's a Wild West. So what are the rules anyways? Because the NCAA has no power. So if they have no power, then why don't you just keep doing these things? I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on about what could and could not be, what you can and can't do. But nobody cares. So instead of doing anything about it or trying to help relay it and trying to help explain it, they're just kind of like, well, we don't have to. I mean, why should we? Why should we say how much we're spending in NIL? Who cares? You don't need to know that. All you need to know is the players, or all the players are the only ones that need to know. The student athletes are the only ones that need to know. That's what matters. So I'm just nervous. I'm nervous and I'm scared of the future. I'm for NIL, always been for NIL, but I'm not for pay for play. Because that will truly destroy college athletics. That's not an exaggeration. That's not an over-the-top reaction. That's a fact. Sure, football will be fine. Basketball will be fine. Baseball will be fine. Like, a lot of these sports will be fine. But the ones that people really count on for scholarships, ones that aren't revenue generating but are funded by the football team, that's where the problem is going to come in. It's going to come in and it's going to hit heavy. And I'm going to hate it. I'm going to hate it. But yes, it's really crazy. Let's go back to another comment here if I get the right mouse. I got too many mice. Yeah, tell me that in the comments, folks. Is it when you have two, like a mouse, and you have two of those, is it you still call them mice? I don't know. It doesn't matter. But let's Timothy here says, what about D2 and D3 and JUCO schools? Will they even be able to afford their bigger ticket sports like football? Again, probably not. At least it would change everything. It would change the entire landscape of D2 and D3 because suddenly they aren't able to, provide the type of finances that some of the D1 schools would have. And unless they get some sort of major revenue share from, because let's be honest, folks, all the money that comes from college athletics is not from just boosters. It comes from the television deals. I mean, you see every school in the SEC, since the SEC network has existed, has gotten more and more money to where I think at the very first year they got like $20 million a piece. And I feel like this next year, especially when Texas and Oklahoma join, it's going to be like $80 to $100 million a piece, a school, just for being here, just for existing in the conference. And that's because of television deals. So that's where the money comes from. So keep that in mind. And unless the D2 and D3 and JUCO schools have anything close to that, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen to it. I don't know how don't throw out D2. What about the FCS? And what's going to happen to them? Schools like a UCA, UAPB. What's going to happen to those schools? I mean, maybe they'll get funded from the U of A because they're system schools, or at least UAPB is. But will those be able to still be sufficient? Maybe. And who knows? Maybe they do it where it's like, okay, only FBS schools are the ones that are doing this law. Or maybe it's just the Power 5 conferences or the Power 4 conferences, whatever conferences, the big schools. Maybe they're the only ones that are doing it. It's all over the place. It's tough. It's tough to deal with. It's tough to talk about. But it's important. It's important to have some transparency there too. And I think hopefully everybody, I'm trying to help educate, even though I'm not an educator. I'm at least a guy who talks for a living and tries to help out in any way I can. But we'll take a break and we'll get to more of your comments, folks, and we'll get to your Arkansas update here in just a second. Folks, I got to tell you about the Superior Contracting and Development team down there in Valonia, because the weather's getting warmer and the vibes are getting high, and people like you and me are thinking, man, how cool would it be if our house had a pool, right? Or how cool would it be if we had a new deck and hang out and to be able to enjoy the warm weather and enjoy the summertime? Well, don't worry, because Superior Contracting and Development can help you out with that. They're licensed and residential commercial contractors, and they specialize in all aspects of home building and remodeling. That's interior and exterior. Doesn't matter if it's inside or outside, they're going to handle it. And they also do a lot more than just construction. They can do fencing. They can do drainage. They can do land development and ground-up construction. They do it all. And you can call them today, right now, for all of your interior and exterior construction and remodeling needs at 501-453-3053. That's 501-453-3053. You can also email them at contracting@superiorarc.com, or you can visit their website at superiorarc.com. So those three ways you can get into contact with them. You can check them out. The best thing about it is not only will they be able to help you out, but they'll help you out quickly. You'll get to talk to a real person, and they'll be in direct communication with you and helping you get everything that you need in the interior and exterior of your home. So again, contact Superior Contracting and Development today at 501-453-3053. We'll take a commercial break. When we come back, we'll have more of the John Nabors Show and your Arkansas update. So stay with us live from Natty State Sports Studios.
We not done yet either. So don't be satisfied. We not done.
I mean, honestly, I don't really remember post game. I guess I black out after games, winning and losing.
You missed it. You missed it. You missed the game. Just tell me you missed it. I'm not going to go to it. Why not?
And that will be the last question I answer with that hat on.
Oh, shoot.
That is why Arkansas is fantastic.
Yes, sir.
Why did that happen in Fayetteville, Arkansas? What took you there? It's just so weird. It's
Visiting friends, but yeah, Dixon Street.
Dixon Street?
Yeah, Dixon Street. It was, it'll get you.
Best guys, I know it's a tough time for you. The coach is gone, but you've got a new coach now. You got to listen to what he says. Okay, I know you're thinking, oh, who is this new guy? Where's the other guy that crashed the motorcycle? We like him better. He was cool or whatever. Forget about all that. Listen to the new coach and get out there and win some games.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks.
You guys act like it's... Pick it up a little bit. Okay? Get your chin up. Smile. Smile.
I was a teacher today. Told those boys, welcome to the SEC.
Fayetteville is 1,843 miles away, but the call of the Hogs can be heard all the way to San Francisco.
Let's stick my dick in the mashed potatoes. Go Hogs.
Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas.
Every time you put a mic in my face, I'm going to say Arkansas.
The John Nabors Show is live from the Natty State Sports Studios.
Welcome back into the John Nabors Show here live from the Natty State Sports Studios. Appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching in on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. As we got a few things that we're going to be talking about again. Tyler Spoon, former Razorback, is going to be joining us here in about 15, 20 minutes as we'll talk to him about all things Razorback Baseball, and that's all, of course, thanks to Bank of Fayetteville here in downtown Fayetteville. But as we know, with all the things happening in Arkansas, not just a game tonight in football, but other things, or basketball, other things too. It's time for your Arkansas update, brought to you by Davis & Garrett Insurance, your independent auto owners insurance agency, securing what matters most. And for your Arkansas updates tonight, Bud Walton Arena, 6 o'clock. It's going to be an early game against LSU. Arkansas got smoked against LSU in the first time that these two teams met, which was pretty stupid. I mean, that game was annoying for all the wrong reasons, but LSU's actually been an improved team. They're not great, but they're not bad. They're 16-13 overall, but they're 8-8 in conference play, 8-8 in the SEC. And they've won 4 of their last 5 games, so it could end up being a barn burner. Here's what's crazy. So LSU, they beat South Carolina on the road. They beat Kentucky at home. They lost to Mississippi State at home by 20. Oof. Then they beat Georgia, and they beat Vanderbilt. But here's the thing. They beat South Carolina by 1, they beat Kentucky by 1, and they beat Georgia by 1. So a lot of those games are really close. They're right there, but still getting the wins, getting the dubs. That's what matters to most to them. But last time they faced off against each other, they won by 21 points. Got curb stomped. Arkansas did in that game. And it was Will Baker, I think was his name. That guy. I remember live streaming that game here at Natty State Sports and laughing about it because this random dude named Will Baker goes his like Ray Allen style for 25 points in that game. Went 4 of 5 from 3, 9 of 11 from the field. So hopefully that doesn't happen again. But it'll be interesting to see how Arkansas comes out. I think they come out strong. I get sick and tired of losing games at home. Like that doesn't need to happen anymore. We need to get over that. It needs to be done with it. But yeah. It'll be interesting to see what the crowd's looking like. In fact, Blake Taylor says here, reporting live in the student section, currently have 20 people. It's not going to be full. Well, this just in. Not surprising. Not surprising. I hate that, though. Like, again, you never want to see the crowds be really low at any game, in any sporting event, especially basketball, especially when it's senior night and especially when, it's going to be some people's last game there at Bud Walton. You want to see the same amount of people you see at every game, but, yeah, I just don't think it's going to be happening tonight, unfortunately. Hopefully they win, though. Be nice. Then they got Alabama on the road Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Ugh. Alabama got smoked by Florida yesterday, too, which is weird. Alabama's kind of struggling. Still probably going to beat Arkansas. But isn't it crazy? Like, this has just been a wild year in college basketball, especially in the SEC. Like, I was looking at the standings. You got Tennessee on top at 13-3. Probably going to win it. Then you have South Carolina at 12-4, and then Auburn, Alabama at 12-5, Kentucky at 11-5, Florida at 11-6. So you're talking about 2 games separating Florida and Tennessee. They're the top 6. South Carolina has a chance to finish second in the SEC after being picked to finish dead last. That's dumb. That is so dumb. Especially if you think about, it's like South Carolina lost to LSU, right? Yeah. They lost to LSU. And they lost to Georgia. Both games at home. Got smoked by Alabama, and they got smoked by Auburn. In every other game they won. They won at Tennessee. Forget about that. But they got Tennessee coming up tonight. This game is going to be on ESPN2, and then they have SEC Network, mid-game against Mississippi State to end the season. But still, SEC standings are pretty wild. But Arkansas has that game tonight. Tomorrow morning will be the first spring practice that we get to check out and we get to see in person, as it'll be at 8:30-ish. At the Razorback Stadium, or not Razorback Stadium, the practice facility. I don't know. It depends on the weather. But we're going to be there. So be sure to follow all of Natty State Sports, folks, because here's the thing. Our content's free. So, it's not behind paywalls or anything like that. All of our video, all of our fun stuff. We're going to do a live stream following the player availability as well as the practices in the morning. So be on the lookout for that. It'll be part of our new podcast, which you haven't subscribed to. You need to. Pod of That Nature, which play off of a phrase that Sam Pittman says quite often. But we started that this morning. It's out there and up there, and so be sure to subscribe to that. But, yeah, we're going to be doing that tomorrow. A lot of Razorback football content. It's going to be great. I can't wait to see Bobby Petrino in Arkansas gear tomorrow. It's going to be almost like nostalgic and weird and fun. I'm going to get a tear in my eye. Be like, yes, that's what I remember. I would love it if he wore a Sugar Bowl hat. He's not going to, but I would love it if he did. That would be so awesome. But also the Razorback baseball team took care of business against UCA yesterday, 9-7. So that was their midweek game taken care of. They got McNeese State coming into Baum Walker this weekend, 3-game series. We'll see if the Friday game ends up actually happening because the weather ain't looking too hot, at least at the point of time of when the game's supposed to be played. It's supposed to be a 3 o'clock game. But I think that they may move it around. I really hope they don't do doubleheaders. I hate doubleheaders. I think players do too. Maybe they don't. But it's another 3-2-1. Friday at 3, Saturday at 2, Sunday at 1. Because Saturday and Sunday look like it's going to be pretty nice, but Friday is going to be a little bit dicey, so we'll see. And then on Tuesday, they play Oral Roberts in Fayetteville in 1 game at 6 o'clock. And then they have a Friday, Saturday, Sunday against Missouri at home in Baum Walker. So we're going to be looking at that. Sorry to answer your question, Cubby Uz. No, it's not open to the public, just to us astute members of the media. But there are going to be some that they do have that are open on some Saturdays. They'll announce that and we'll relay the message. But as far as the one tomorrow, at least, it's not going to be open. So just wanted to give you all a heads up on that. Let's see. I felt like there was something else in the Arkansas update that I wanted to bring up and put to the forefront. There's a thing, I know we talked a lot about it yesterday. Oh, yeah. Shout out to Chris Buckman, who we know is an elite track coach for the men's track team. He is the SEC Indoor Coach of the Year. So congratulations. They've won their 5th consecutive indoor championship and a 5th consecutive indoor, and he's won it 5 straight times of being the SEC Indoor Coach of the Year. That ain't bad. It's one thing to win it like that, but then to also be able to get the coach's award. And it's voted upon, but rightfully so. And also shout out to Chris Johnson. He earned his first SEC Indoor Coach of the Year for women's track. Again, not surprising, but still want to give some love to the track team because they are really good and they are really successful and they deserve that. So wanted to make that known. But there you have it. There is your Arkansas update presented by Davis & Garrett Insurance, your independent auto owners insurance agency, securing what matters most. Let's get to some of these comments real quick. It's a couple of you were asking some questions here, and hopefully we can at least answer them. But Cody James says, late to the pod, but I hope Devo gets a standing ovation tonight. Who's to say Devo's not coming back next year? He does have another year. You think I'm joking? I'm not. He absolutely could come back next year. And from what I'm hearing, he is going to come back next year. So Devo might get a standing ovation, but he may get another one next year for senior night. Just saying. Just saying. Let's see. Nick says, sat with local country music star Dylan Earl yesterday at the baseball game, and those boys were rowdy. You should get him in on a podcast. I don't know who he is, but he's welcome to reach out to me if he wants to hang out. So, yeah, well, because we're all about the rowdy people over here on Natty State Sports. That's all we do. I mean, my dog's named Rowdy. I mean, look at this guy. Can't tell me that guy doesn't seem like a party every single time you look at him. Or at least that's what I'm going to keep saying. Let's see. We mentioned Razorback basketball tonight. I think I want to double check this, but Arkansas, I believe, are 4.5-point favorites. Yeah, 4.5-point favorites tonight. How about that? Over/under set at 154.5. Man, Arkansas's averaging both teams are averaging almost the exact same point total this season. Arkansas's averaging 76.8, LSU's 76.4. The only difference is that Arkansas's given up 79.1, but LSU's only given up 74 points. I don't know, man. I may bet the over. I think both teams can get to the 80s. I mean, neither of them can play great defense. And with Caleb Battle playing the way he is, and if he can go for 35, 40 points again, I may bet the over. But check this out, too. Again, it's amazing just looking at the stats how pretty even these teams are. LSU shooting 45% from the field, Arkansas 44%. Rebounding-wise, LSU averages 35.5. Arkansas averages 34.5. Assist, LSU averages 11.8. Arkansas averages 11.5. Blocks, 3.9 for LSU, but 5.9 for Arkansas, so 2 points difference, right? Well, steals, 7.9 for LSU and 5.9 for Arkansas, another 2-point difference. So really even there when it comes to the averages. But I don't know. I need to stop betting on Razorback Sports in general. I need to stop doing that. I need to stop betting. Actually, you know what? I say that, and I think they've done a really good job of making me money at least because I've been betting against them. I'm horrible. I'm a horrible fan, but it's true. That's what I would do. Joshua Miller says, Devo greater than or equal to KJ. Well, I assume, Josh, that you're referring to how he's viewed by fans when his legacy ends. But I don't care what anybody says. I'm riding with Devo. I'm riding with Devo. All of his ups and downs, all of the issues that may have been risen up from it, or at least the rumors and all that stuff. I get it. It's not perfect. And it's not something you want to see. But if you're talking about overall legacy, it's Devo Davis. The man went 8-3 in the NCAA tournament on those teams, and he was a crucial, in some cases, the most pivotal part of those teams winning those games. Like last year, you do not win that Kansas game without Devo. You do not beat Oral Roberts without Devo. You don't beat Gonzaga, really, without Devo. You don't win these big-time games in the tournament without Devo. So, say what you want about him. Say what you want about his legacy. But to me, if I'm just comparing the two, I'm going to remember. I have no problem with KJ even. I'm not trying to say I don't like KJ. But I think that overall I'm going to ride with Devo over KJ Jefferson, at least at this point in time. Chris also says, I'm with you. If Muss decides to leave, I wish him nothing but the best. Yeah, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy of just being so bitter back. Oh, how dare you? Like, if I, like, students, you know, it's like, remember when, Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma and, like, students went out and, like, burned couches and lost their minds? Same thing with Lane Kiffin leaving. I don't think Arkansas fans are going to do that. I don't think anybody's going to do that. At least they shouldn't do that. So don't burn couches. Sit in couches. That's what they're there for. That's what you need to worry about, too. I love this week so far, though. Baseball, basketball, football now, too, with spring practices. I'm pumped up and excited. Some people are already giving me crap about thinking that I'm going to pick this football team to win 10 games. Please. I'm going to pick them to win 11. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that. But I am saying that I think this team is going to be improved. I really do. I think they're going to be improved. I think they're going to be better. I think they're going to surprise some people. And even talking with Brandon Marcello yesterday, on record and off record, he's got me feeling a certain type of way. To maybe, just maybe, this ends up being a really good thing. Maybe, just maybe, they get it going. They get it done. I can't wait. I can't wait till we get out there tomorrow because I'm going to see Taylon Green throw one pass for 30 yards and be like, oh, yeah, Heisman Trophy coming at you, coming your way. It's happening. But I think, honestly, the position, I was looking at the roster, too. I think I have it right in front of me here. I can grab it under the remote. I was looking at some of the weights and the heights and all of that. I was pretty impressed. Braylon Russell. So I know we talked about this on Pod of That Nature, and Sam Pittman mentioned it a little bit in the press conference yesterday. But Braylon Russell is 6'1", 252 pounds. 6'1", 252 pounds. He's a true freshman out of Benton. I knew he was a big guy, but I didn't realize he was that big. Hopefully it's a good 251 or 252. But that's a big old boy right there. And if you look at the running back position, it's a pretty perfect thing. Rashad Benny is about 5'10", 199 pounds, so he's not big by any stretch. If you look at some of the other running backs, though, that Arkansas has either added or that is returning, you got a guy like Dominic Johnson, 6'1", 251, big old boy. Then you throw in Jaquindon Jackson, 6'2", 235. He's the transfer from Utah. I'm really excited about him, but he's a big guy. And then you throw in Isaiah Gustav, 6'2", 212. Pretty good sized. A little smaller, but still good sized. Thought there was one more that was there in the mix. But the point is like you got some big old running backs that you're going to be able to go out there with it. Like you got some dudes that are going to hopefully not go down on first contact and actually be awesome. And to go back to your talk about the Bobby Petrino thing, because I know we're about to take a break and get Tyler Spoon on with us. To go back to the comments and talking about Petrino and the offense, we talked about it on the Pod of That Nature. I think it's very telling that none of the wide receivers transferred out of the program. And you think about it, anytime you have turnover, like they lost their wide receiver coach, they lost their coordinator, they lost their quarterback. It's a lot of uncertainty, and they all stayed. And other than KJ Jefferson, all the quarterbacks stayed. And why do you think that is? Probably because they this Petrino guy, he probably knows a little bit about offense and he knows how to make us successful. So how about we just give this a shot and see how it goes? Fine by me. Let's make it go. Let's make it work. But 11 wins. 11 wins. Easy. We're going to have Tyler Spoon, former Razorback baseball player, joining us here in just a second, all thanks to Bank of Fayetteville. But first off, I got to tell you, Alumni Hall. They got all stock right now, all stock of baseball apparel. They got baseball jerseys. So those pinstripes I was wearing yesterday, and also the team, I guess, was wearing them too. They have those in stock. They got baseball caps, the official cap of the Razorback baseball team. They have it in stock right now. And you can shop them online at nattystatesports.com/alumni hall. If you go to that website, you'll see the entire inventory that they have and be able to buy for everyone, not only just for the guys, but for the gals, for the kids, for the pets. And they have a bunch of accessories too, and dealing with Yetis. Like they have Yeti apparel. They have it all. And it's just amazing every single time I go in there in store there in Fayetteville and seeing the different things that they have to choose from. I'm floored and I'm blown away by just, I didn't realize that they made one of these things in Arkansas style, but they do. So if it ever exists, Alumni Hall is going to have it. So be sure to shop over there today. And also want to make sure that everybody knows that they have these Hall Pass rewards that you can earn points with each of your purchases and you get rewarded, because once you spend $150, which is really easy to do with some of the great stuff that they have there, you'll get $10 off your next purchase. It's as simple as that. So you got to check them out today at nattystatesports.com/alumni hall. That's nattystatesports.com/alumni hall. It's Alumni Hall, the ultimate Razorback shopping destination. We'll take a break and welcome in Tyler Spoon, former Razorback great, coming up next. So stay with us.
We not done yet either. So don't be satisfied. We not done.
I mean, honestly, I don't really remember post game. I guess I black out after games, winning and losing.
You missed it. You missed it. You missed it. Just tell me you missed it. I'm not going to go through it today. Why not?
And that will be the last question I answer with that hat on.
Oh, shoot.
That is why Arkansas is fantastic.
Yes, sir.
Why did that happen in Fayetteville, Arkansas? What took you there? It's just so weird. It's
visiting friends, but yeah, Dixon Street.
Dixon Street?
Yeah, Dixon Street. It was, it'll get you.
Best guys, I know it's a tough time for you. The coach is gone, but you've got a new coach now, and you got to listen to what he says. Okay, I know you're thinking, who is this new guy? Where's the other guy that crashed the motorcycle? We like him better. He was cool or whatever. Forget about all that. Listen to the new coach and get out there and win some games.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
You guys act like it's... Pick it up a little bit. Okay? Get your chin up. Smile. Smile.
I was a teacher today. Told those boys, welcome to the SEC.
Fayetteville is 1,843 miles away, but the call of the Hogs can be heard all the way to San Francisco.
Let's stick my dick in the mashed potatoes. Go Hogs.
Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas.
Every time you put a mic in my face, I'm going to say Arkansas.
The John Nabors Show is live from the Natty Sports Studios.
All right, welcome back into the John Nabors Show. Appreciate each and every one of you watching in, listening in here on this beautiful day in the great state of Arkansas. As we know, basketball's tonight. Looks like a sparse crowd. Of course, it is an early game. What time is it? 5? Good grief. Give it a rest, people. But baseball's still going on. And we are always having fun whenever we're joined by Tyler Spoon, former Razorback great, thanks to the Bank of Fayetteville. So let's talk a little baseball with him. So we were able to catch up with him later this afternoon here on the John Nabors Show. All right, right now we're joined by a very special guest, just like we are always joined each and every Wednesdays, thanks to the Bank of Fayetteville right here in downtown. It is our guy and former Razorback Tyler Spoon. And Tyler, as always, man, appreciate you joining us. How you doing?
I'm good, John. How we doing this week?
Well, it's going pretty good because I feel like now that we are able to have some more baseball and wins, I think are very important too.
Yes, indeed.
It's good to see. So you get the sweep over Murray State. You had a game which UCA yesterday. Got the victory, a little hairy there in the end, but got the victory. Just what so far since the last time we were able to talk to you has really stood out over the past 4 or so games?
Yeah, I mean, just the continued dominance of the pitching staff is just very impressive. I mean, just the pieces are all there to have maybe the best starting rotation bullpen combination we've had ever here. So that's good to see that's continuing. The offense is coming along. There's still a lot to figure out, but there's at the end of the day, the offense is not doing great, and probably some people would say the offense is just not good right now, and I get that. But there's 2 ways to look at it, and you can say, okay, well, we're not very good right now, so you got to know this. We're going to get better, okay? Like the offense is going to get better. It's going to come along. It happens every year. I say every year, but it happens a lot. Offense struggles, slow start, figure it out. Or you can say our offense is not playing very well right now, and we're 9-2 still. I mean, it's at the end of the day, our pitching staff is unbelievable. So we've got a lot of really good pieces, and we could be in a worse spot than we are. So that I think we'll be just fine.
Well, I want to start with pitching. We'll get to hitting in a second. But this past weekend, and say what you want about the name of the team, Murray State, whatever.
Yeah.
But when you have first off, I think the starting rotation's settled. I think we figured it out.
I think that's it.
And also seeing Hagen come in. Hagen's Hagen. I know he gave up that bomb in the beginning, which is so funny and ironic, but goes for 12 strikeouts.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have Brady Tiger come in, 10 strikeouts.
Yep.
Then you have Mason Williams come in, 10 strikeouts. I know that as a hitter, you got to score, you got to get runs, you got to get on base, but when you're in the lineup and you're a hitter and you know that your starting rotation, your starting lineup is capable of having double-digit strikeouts in a weekend series for each and every guy, what does that do for the confidence of the team and also just for the team in general?
Yeah, it's scary, and we joked about this before. Of course, last week I say Hagen could be the first pick overall, and he gives up a bomb the first bat of the game. But I can't remember a time where we had 3 starters from the beginning, and you look up in week 3, week 4, and you're like, these are going to be the starters the rest of the year. This is the exact order. Usually it changes up. Guys maybe don't perform as well, but to have your guys and to have your, the bullpen pieces we do, I think people – and let me say this about McIntyre. McIntyre is probably the most valuable piece in the bullpen. I mean, it's not because of how nasty he is. It's not because of, anything other than he is just reliable. And you know exactly what you're going to get from him every time. He's going to go out a bad outing. He may give up 3 runs. I don't know. But you got to have that guy that can either he can come in and just be competitive and keep you in the game or give you a lot of innings, whatever it is. Or just lock him down, whatever it is. It's a perfect combo off Hagen as well. But he has been so good, and just he's going to throw strikes. He's going to pound the zone. If they hit him, so be it. It is what it is. He's going to find a way to only give up 3, maybe 4 at the most. So, it gives you confidence just as a team overall. And, sometimes we were like, in 2013, our pitching staff had like a 1.89 ERA, and sometimes you can, as an offense, you can get a little lax as well, where you're like, okay, if we can just score 3 or 4 runs, and we'll probably win this game. So, but as for the confidence as a team overall, you're just, what else can you ask for?
Yeah. Well, and also, I know it's early, but I do want to ask you this: from what you've seen so far, and assuming everyone stays healthy, and the potential, or how you want everyone to look at it, but is this the best and deepest Razorback pitching staff that Dave Van Horn's had, just in your opinion, from what you've seen?
It's hard to say no. I mean, it's 2013 is, again, the best statistical pitching staff we've ever had, and that was the Barrett Aston, Ryan Stanek, Colby Suggs, Trent Daniel, all those guys, right? Randall Fant. I mean, the list goes on, but it was. And Nolan Sanborn also got through 100. So, I mean, it's just, but at the same time, you look at this, what we have right now, we got a lot of guys that can throw upper 90s, touch 100 probably. So, so far, it looks like the pieces are there that we could potentially look up and be like, that was the greatest pitching staff that's ever stepped foot on this campus. And not to mention, the balls are a little more juiced than they were when back in 2012, 13, 14, whatever it was, but not to take anything away from that pitching staff. But if they have very, very similar numbers, it's hard to argue, this team, this pitching staff's for real. I don't want to say too much too soon, but the pieces are all there.
Yeah. Well, and just going back real quick to that 2013 team, college baseball's changed so much just in 10 or so years. What was it about that pitching staff in particular that made them so good and so special and so unique? Was it just the velocity? Was it the type of pitching that they threw? Like, just what made them so good?
A lot of what we have this year, it's you have 3 solidified starters, and you have a back end bullpen piece, and you have that middle relief guy, which for us was probably Brandon Moore at that time, and then the pieces were just very, very, very similar. You just had, again, like I said, 3 starters. You got your McIntyre, who again I compared Brandon Moore to him, last week or whenever it was, but. You've also got at the back end, you got Gackle and maybe Faraday right now, and Suggs. Suggs to me, obviously take out Cops. Cops was a different animal, but Suggs to me, when he was healthy and he was good, is the best closer, even over Cronin, everything that I've seen come through Arkansas. I mean, he was up to 98, 99, like power slider, just filthy. So this group has the same stuff. I mean, the solidified starters, the guys that you get a left, Colin Fisher, who could pitch in the weekend for any other team in the SEC. Probably he's our Tuesday starter. So again, it's one of those things that. Yeah, the solidified starters and the back end being solidified, that's what makes a bullpen really, really good. So the pieces are there, and it's very similar to that 2013 team.
Speaking with Tyler Spoon, former Razorback, here on the John Nabors Show, thanks to the Bank of Fayetteville here in downtown Fayetteville. So, Tyler, continue on with discussing the pitching. I know that in baseball, because of the limitations, you got the 11.7 scholarships. I know we could do a whole show, I'm sure, based on some of the limitations that baseball players have. But talking about this pitching staff and how, Dave Van Horn's had so much success and he's had so many great teams. He's had a lot of great pitchers. But truly, how difficult is it as a college baseball program to have and to get a pitching staff like what Arkansas has this year or like what Arkansas had in 2013?
Yeah.
Because it seems, there's so many pitchers out there, so many college pitchers. You can find ways to get 3 guys, surely, out of all the pitchers. But what makes it so difficult to be able to put together a pitching staff like this year in and year out at a program like Arkansas?
It's just across the board. It's just extremely difficult, and you never know with high school recruits and who you're getting from the portal, whatever it is. Most of it's development, and I think that's where Hobbs comes in. And Hobbs has done such a phenomenal job of getting guys in and just really being able to take the most out of each kid and get the most out of them. And just develop them further. And I think a lot of it, too, you look up now, you have Hagan and Brady and Molina, all 3 of those. None of those guys are freshmen. But on our team right now, you also have Gackle, you have Faraday may potentially, but you have Fisher. I'm just thinking of all the younger guys. They're getting this experience now, and in 2 years, those are going to be the guys that you look up and say, okay, that's our Friday guy, that's our Saturday guy, whoever it is at that time. But you got to have experience, and that's it's hard to find that and get that instantly, and it's hard to develop it. But that's where I think Hobbs comes in and does such a great job of developing pitchers early, because they're not going to be an instant Friday night starter when they step on campus. It's very, very rare. But when after a couple years they develop, your Gackle is going to look up and maybe next year or the next year and be the Friday, Saturday guy and just continues to gain confidence.
You mentioned Will McIntyre. I want to go back to him, too. I kind of call him the utility player.
Yeah.
It just seems like no matter what the situation is, no matter how many pitches he threw the previous day, it's just, hey, throw him in there. He's going to get it figured out. I feel like that's an underrated thing because everybody wants to be a starter. Everybody wants to go out there on the mound and first pitch and throw it in and everything. But it seems like he's kind of settled into that role and he's fine with that. Just what makes him so good as a utility player and his pitching and his velocity and everything that's able to be counted on, also the mentality of getting thrown into any situation, no matter what Dave Van Horn puts him in.
I think it's a combination of everything. Well, I think it's his cutter is really good, and a cutter can really keep hitters off balance, especially in college. But it's a perfect combination, just kind of plays off of either Hagan or Tigert or Molina, whatever it is, especially guys that, probably are throwing a little bit harder and just a lot of zip, a lot of carry, and then you get a guy throwing a 85, 86 mile an hour cutter that tails away from you and looks like a fastball, but he's pounding the zone and throwing a lot of strikes. It just makes it he just does such a good job of, he doesn't try to do too much, and he doesn't try to do anything that's not him. He's not trying to throw 95. He's trying to throw a really good cutter, really good fastball when he needs to, but he's working both sides of the plate, keeping hitters off balance. He's pitching, he's truly just pitching, not trying to overpower guys. But like I said earlier, he's just reliable, and you know what you're going to get every single time. He's going to pound the zone, and there's going to be times where he gets hammered. It's just going to happen. Maybe stuff's not crazy sharp, but more times than not, he's going to come in and just give you, 2 to 4 or 5 innings if you need it, and 2 runs, 3 runs at the most, but maybe complete, shutout, 1 run, whatever it is. So he's just extremely consistent, and he's just done a really good job of staying to who he is.
I know we've talked pitching, and everyone's excited about the pitching, but let's talk about the hitting. I know that we talked last week about the struggles they had in Arlington and what you want to see a little bit more of. And, of course, they're winning games, and that's what is most important. But I think people are still kind of waiting to see what the hitting happened. Because yesterday against UCA, if it wasn't for the grand slam by Aloy and then also McLaughlin hitting a 3-run bomb, I think Arkansas got 2 runs there in the end, ended up winning. But still, it's just – you don't want to ever have to put in that position where the only runs are coming on one swing. You want to be able to work it and be able to do it. Just, how do you feel about it right now? I know it's still early, but you still want to kind of see that's progressing, especially against some of these Sunday games against Murray State or a midweek game against UCA. You want to see the bats really start to get going.
Yeah, I think it's. I think it goes back to what we've talked about. First or second week is you've got to have that one guy. You got to have him, and right now no one's really taken that role. It's just like for us in 2015, we had Benny, but you have the one guy that you know is going to be an incredibly tough out and going to do some damage. It changes how the guy before him is pitched, changes how the guy after him is pitched, and then the guy after him. So if you can just find the one guy that can really, really do damage and teams are going to be like a little bit scared to throw to him, everything's going to change. And we just haven't found that guy yet. It doesn't seem like anyone's really comfortable yet. Aloy could be that guy. McLaughlin could be that guy. Stovall could be that guy when he comes back. And it could be somebody that, we don't even on the radar right now, It could be a Hudson White that turns around and you look up, he's hitting 350 with 10 home runs, So once we find just that one guy, the dude that's just like, hop on, we're gonna run this thing, So it'll change the entire complexity of the lineup. It'll change everything. So it'll come.
Well, and I'm wondering too, because I'm sure you got banged up and everything. Did you ever deal with a major injury when you were in school? I couldn't remember if you did or not.
Yeah, I had a sports hernia. So at my fall of 2014, I didn't do anything.
Okay, so it wasn't the middle of the season.
No,
really.
It was the last. It was at Kansas State. In Kansas State 2013.
Okay. The reason I was asking is because I was just curious. You mentioned Stovall. I know that he's of course dealt with injuries before, and every player does. But to miss the last half of last season, and then coming into this year, have to miss not the first half, but still a good chunk in the beginning. How difficult is that for a player to kind of just jump back into that? And he's a great player, and I think everyone's going to know that, but to not play for 10, 15 games and then kind of get thrown right back in, assuming that he comes back from Missouri, which is starting SEC play, just how difficult can that be for an athlete to just settle in and try to get it going, especially during the most crucial part of the schedule?
Everyone's different. Some guys, they hop right back in, and sometimes they just need a break. They just get a mental break from everything, and then they hop back in, and they're just good to go. And they're just, just take off from there. But some guys, it takes them, don't be surprised if you look up and Stovall's 1 for 10 to start. It's okay. Like his timing's off. He hadn't seen it, and trying to get everything, his rhythm back, whatever it is. So it can be tough. But again, at the end of the day, Stovall's an experienced guy, so he knows what he's doing in the box. It's not like he's going to be. He'll probably have quite a bit of adrenaline his first game or two, but at the end of the day, he'll be fine. I would say I'm going to give him at least 3 or 4 weeks just to I want him to figure out in a month. I'd rather him be good in a month than be really good, back for Mizzou. So it can be tough, but I also think you got to have him in the lineup no matter what. I think he's one of the 3 guys that I think could really just take off and be like, okay, I'm gonna put this offense on my back, and we're gonna hop on and take off. So
yeah, I agree with you too. I think he has that capability, and I guess is it like I hadn't played baseball at least to that level. Is it like golf a little bit though when it comes to swinging, where if you're out for a little bit, if you just stop doing it for a month or so, you get back, you're like, okay, this is weird. Is it kind of that same concept a little bit?
It can be, yeah. It can either feel completely foreign, or you just go out. It's golf, you may take off a month and you may come back and shoot 120, or you come back and you shoot a 72 and you're like, I'm ready for the tour, Baseball can be the same way, where like I said, sometimes guys don't even realize it, but they just need a break. And a forced break, sometimes a little forced reset can be a good thing mentally, physically, for your body, just depending on who the guy is. So it's a coin flip. You completely never know what's going to happen. Some guys, again, may take them a month to get back into the rhythm, the timing, and everything. But again, the other guys are just hop back in there and go. So we'll see how Stovall does.
Speaking with Tyler Spoon, former Razorback, here on the John Nabors Show, thanks to the Bank of Fayetteville here in downtown Fayetteville. So we talk about the pitching and we talk about the hitting. I'm curious and to get your thoughts on it, and some maybe that doesn't get talked about enough. It's just defensive within itself.
Yeah.
Because Arkansas, fans may take it for granted, but I just feel like, especially the past 2 to 3 years, shortstop, second base, you had elite defenders turn into, I think they led the team, the SEC, or at least the country, in double plays, it seems like, over the past 3 years. But what have you felt about the overall defense? I haven't had much opportunity because everyone's striking out because of these great pitchers, but just from what you've seen the defensive side of the side of things. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's been good so far. I think you're also seeing. I mean, you guys are noticing the lineup's different every day right now. It's like DVH is throwing. He's trying to figure out what works. He's trying to find something that sticks, and so you're seeing guys just play different positions all the time. So you're probably don't be surprised if you see a few more errors than normal. But I think overall, I mean, defensively, again, up the middle's good, and that's a testament to DVH more than anything, just because I know how much he cares about the middle infield and how valuable that is to him. And they work day in and day out. Every day they do fungos. DVH is right there behind second base, coaching middle infielders, shortstop, second base, because he knows how valuable that double play can be to get out of an inning, or just having a good defensive shortstop, second baseman. So, yeah, the defense overall, I think is going to be just fine. I don't think I don't know if it'll be the best defense that we've ever had, but it's going to be plenty good enough. And Spraglot, I know he's made a couple errors, but looking at his track record, he'll be fine. Once he settles in, he'll be. I'm not too worried about him at all. Aloy does a great job at short, and then I don't see any issue. Helfrich's probably the best defensive catcher we've ever had come through here. It could by the end of his time. So. I think defensively we'll be really good. I don't have any concerns right now.
You mentioned catcher. They seem to be trying different guys, which is a great problem to have. But I know you're a big Helfrich guy. Do you think that he's going to go ahead and be the main guy moving forward?
You got to get to a point where if none of your catchers are hitting, you bite the bullet and say, we need defense. You need a really, really, really good defensive catcher. And right now I think Hudson White's a good catcher, a really good defensive catcher. And he can hit. It's in there. He just hadn't done it yet. But Helfrich's the guy that Hudson White is really good, but Helfrich just is above the rest. I mean, and again, not a knock to anybody else. That's just a testament to how good Helfrich is, and it's little stuff that most people, maybe the common fan, may not know. But again, me as a guy that played catcher professionally and seeing the big leaguers do it and what they do, and they would come and help us and teach us things. He does all those things that they try to teach you to do in professional baseball, and does it at such a high level. So defensively, if it gets to the point where it's like, hey, we're gonna bite the bullet and go for defense over offense, then it's gonna be Helfrich, I would say. So
well, you mentioned that when about big league catchers and everything. What were some of the little things that they taught you that maybe the common fan doesn't see?
A lot of it's the receiving part. People may not, a good catcher receiving is someone that is boring and you don't really realize, but if you pay close attention and you see the strikes that are kind of on the corners, on inside, outside, and you see how the catcher catches it, or the low ball, the high ball, just watch him catch and watch how clean it is. There's not a lot of movement when that ball hits his mitt. He's just sticking it. It's very, and that's also, he's got really, really strong hands, It's just something, sometimes it's just natural to guys and it's super easy, but the way he moves and just he's flexible, and the receiving part of the game, you can steal a lot of strikes behind the dish, and he does a really, really good job of that, and pitchers love that. I mean, the better you can receive the ball and more strikes you can steal, making them look really good. Maybe they're a little bit off the plate, but you can make it look like a strike. It's just super valuable to your pitcher, and they love throwing to those guys. So it's stuff like that I notice, and just his movements and mannerisms that are just like, he's so relaxed, and it's hard to be a really, really relaxed catcher. So especially when there's 98 miles an hour coming at you. So it's stuff like that I pay attention to more. And the arm's unbelievable. He can block. Blocking is just one of those things that you either do it or you don't. You put enough work in, you'll be a good blocker. So, but some things are hard to teach, and he's got a lot of those things that I pay attention to.
Also curious too about the dynamic with Dave Van Horn and this coach staff, because hey, Nate Thompson's the hitting coach. Matt Hobbs is the pitching coach. As far as the infielders and the catchers and all of that, is that something that is Dave Van Horn a lot more hands on into that realm? Is it somebody like a Bobby Werniss in this case who comes in, just who coaches and works and develops, and how does that work when it comes to defense, infield, and guys like the catcher in those positions?
Yeah, it's a combination of everybody. I know Bobby handles a lot of the catchers. We'll give a shout out to Bobby here, and
Big Bobby.
He's done a good job with the catchers. You look up the last few years, we've had really, really good catchers. So, but I think overall, I mean, DVH takes pride in his infield, a lot of pride, and so. Bobby's hands-on. Of course, Bobby played infield, so he's obviously very helpful, and Coach Thompson helps, hits a lot of fungos, do whatever. But when it comes to the infield, DVH has the final say, and that's his thing. That's his baby. He played infield. he takes so much pride in how good that infield is. And, you know, that's why we always have such a great defensive infield. But yeah, everyone kind of pitches in here and there and does their thing. And, but DVH has the final say, especially infield.
This is a random question, but it just made me think about with Dave Van Horn being hands-on. Was he also one of the, I think he was the third base coach when you were playing still, or did he already delegate that out to his
He had
assistants?
already delegated to Walker. So when Walker was the assistant coach, he delegated it to Walker. So it was the year before I got there, or maybe it was my first year, whatever it was. But yeah, it was Walker had taken the third base spot.
Yeah,
so
because I always remember like looking kind of back into that. It's like that was a thing where the head coach, the head guy was doing just simple something like that. And now, of course, he's delegated it out. But again, it just shows the growth of college baseball. But I'm sure there's also times too, like, you know, head coaches, I don't mean this in a negative way, but a lot of them will just kind of take it as maybe being a little bit of control freaks.
Yeah.
Just because it's like, hey, I know how I want my program ran and I want to do that. And with Dave Van Horn and delegating stuff, you talk about the infield and everything, did you always feel like that he had his hands on everything, but was he more of a control guy? Was like, this is kind of stepping in when he needs to step in, or was he allowing his assistants and guys just to coach and to figure it out until he really needs to do something about it?
Yeah, no, he does a really good job of letting the coaches. You know, Matt Hobbs was brought here to be a pitching coach. He lets Matt Hobbs be the pitching coach. Coach Thompson was brought here to be the hitting coach. He lets Coach Thompson be the hitting coach. You know, I would almost consider DVH kind of like the defensive coach in a way. You know, he is a head coach and he does a really good job of, you know, Bobby handles the catchers and helps with the infield, but he does a really good job. He loves the game so much and is so passionate about it. I think inside of him, he's still like a position coach where he's like, you know, he takes pride in that infield and that defense. So, but he does a really good job just kind of, but like you said, if he feels like he needs to step in, if like, you know, we look up and the offense as a whole is hitting 100, it'll be like, hey, we need to look at something. Like we need to figure something out. But for the most part, you know, he's going to let Thompson work through it and do his thing. You know, they'll have meetings every week and go through things, and you know, he's always in the middle of something. But like he's letting Thompson do his thing, what he was brought here to do. You know, which is coach hitting. So, and same with Hobbs. He's going to let Coach Hobbs coach pitching. So he's not going to step in unless it's like an absolute dire need.
Well, I'm glad you said that because I'm not going to mention the name to make sure I don't get in trouble for this. And it is not meant in a negative way, but there's a pitcher on the current staff right now that says jokingly, he's like, I don't think I've ever met Dave Van Horn. Because it's like, it's just, obviously he has, but it's saying that because it's just Matt Hobbs all the time, where Dave is just, hey, now I think it was when the Arkansas beat Oregon State down in Arlington, and he had that really cool speech after the game. I don't know if you saw that, but that was a really, really cool thing. And he talked to Faraday a little bit, and all of that. It's like the pitcher I know that texted me, he was like, he's like, Faraday joke, that was the first time, or I felt like that was the first time he talked to Faraday, something to that extent. But that's why I wanted to ask, because it certainly seems like Van Horn, who is a very intelligent, a very smart, a very passionate coach, also is able to take a step back and just be like, hey, you know, I brought these guys in for a reason, and that's probably what makes a program very healthy, and also what probably makes guys like Matt Hobbs and Nate Thompson, who's been here for a long time, be able to want to stay here for a long time too.
Yeah, I mean, you think it's just like any other job. You don't want that boss that micromanages everything you do, and you know, DVH understands. He's got recruiting to worry about. He's got fundraising to worry about too. There's so much that goes on, you know, goes along with being a head coach, and like I said, he's not going to step in unless it's like we're in a major spot and it's like, hey, what the heck is going on? We got to figure something out. So, but at the same time, I think that's also when you think about the future, Hobbs, Hobbs is not going to stay here forever. Thompson's not going to stay here forever. Bobby's not going to stay here forever. You got to set up an environment that attracts and is appealing to assistant coaches, and he's done a really good job of that. So, and when it comes to the separation, there's always a separation between offense and defense and pitching. Pitching is kind of its own world. Yeah, and when he's probably a lot like me, where the pitching is so advanced and technological these days, it's so different than anything I had been taught. So it may be a deal where DVH is like, Hobbs, I don't know what the heck any of this is. Like, you do it, you take it. The pitching mound they have that's like a few $100,000 that reads the force off the mound, and there's so much that goes into it that Hobbs really has a full understanding of and can wrap his mind around. Where even me thinking about it, only being removed 10 years from the game, I'm like, some of this stuff I don't even know. All the spin stuff that's new, and I got a pretty good grasp of that. But it could be a deal where he's just like, I don't want any part of it. That's a lot for me to learn. So you go ahead and just do your thing, and I'll put my 2 cents in when I need to.
Yeah. Well, I got a couple questions that's actually asking from our audience, because when we post this interview online, people want me to ask you these things. So I got a couple. This one's from Tommy. He wanted to know that when you were playing, when it came to signals, whether you were out in the outfield or as a hitter, how did that go? Did it change every single week? Did you guys have almost like a class where you sit down and like, all right, guys, these are the signals for this? Like, how was the communication done when you were out there, not only in the field, but also in the batter's box?
Yeah, in the box, it was, pretty standard. I mean, if we felt like someone had our signs, we would change them instantly. But DVH does a pretty good job keeping it simple, but also complicated to where it's hard for another team to pick up. So the signs are something that, again, you know pretty quickly if someone has your signs, where it's like they're pitching out when you're stealing, or, you're throwing high up and in, maybe another pitch out if it's a hit and run kind of deal, like, or a pick off at a certain situation. You get an idea. You will have a feel of if people have your signs. So, and then defensively, as an outfielder for the most part, it's someone waving a big towel and telling you, hey, go this way, or take 2 steps back. But, signs are one of those things that, if you got them, they're valuable. But at the same time, there's a lot more going on in the game that sometimes you just don't have enough time to look and try to steal signs. Usually, for the most part, I would say 98% of the time, no one even had an idea what our signs were.
And also, this question comes from Jeremy. He was wanting to know, besides of your teammates that you played with at Arkansas, who's your favorite Razorback baseball player to watch?
Oh, gosh. Man, I grew up watching Logan Forsythe. That was my guy. That was a guy that I remember. I was probably 7th, 8th grade, coming up here, and I remember. Again, I'm a teenager. I'm love baseball, and I'd see Logan Forsythe walk within like 5 feet of me. I'm like, that was one of the first starstruck moments I'd ever had, where I'm like, oh my gosh, that's him. So that's the guy for me. I probably enjoyed watching the most, just because. I was a third baseman, kind of like him, kind of deal, and wanted to, obviously being an Arkansas boy, wanted to play for the Hogs. That's definitely the guy. My favorite Razorback, I would say.
I think when at least I started really paying attention to Razorback baseball, that was a Nick Schmidt guy.
Yeah,
like Jess Todd. I just love that combo of guys that would come in, and the thing is, I watched it. I don't remember as many guys that were in the field or in the lineup, but I just remember those two guys. Of course, being really good. But honestly, it's funny. I was already in college, but when I really started getting into the baseball side of things, Brett Eibner was my favorite.
Yeah,
just
he's
because
a good one too.
I like the fact that he was a great outfielder and a great hitter, but I'll never forget him coming in and pitching, which I know nowadays is almost like, other than Oklahoma State that one time, but it seems like it's almost out of the realm. But I remember knowing him. He hated pitching.
Yeah.
But he still came in and still did a great job too.
Yeah.
So like that, those are just those players that you remember those moments and then those times like stood out and just
the home run at Virginia, against Virginia College World Series. Never forget that,
dude. Like because that's one of my favorite moments because I was at the old Rosenblatt, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean,
it sure was.
I think it was an even more impressive home run because of that. And, and in that moment too, and that was a great game, a great series. But yeah, it's just amazing to see how nowadays. I wish I could remember his name, but I was talking to a baseball player from Arkansas who was on the team 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And he was talking about, he's like, oh, yeah, Benintendi was my favorite Razorback growing up. I'm like, my God, I'm old. That makes me feel so old. But,
that's funny.
But it is cool to see just how, again, we can talk about the growing of the game, but having the access, having things on TV. Because, I mean, I know that you were, I think in your final year at least, played a little bit where the SEC network was already in place and started to do the plus. But in your freshman year, if Razorback baseball is on TV, that was a huge, huge deal, and now it's so readily accessible for everybody too.
I know it's good for the game, and it shows the game's growing a lot too. And you just see it by the attendance numbers. I feel like every time I hop on Twitter or something, it's like, especially on a big weekend, teams are posting. I think I saw Campbell was like record-setting attendance, and it was like 1,700, which. Some of you may be like, oh, that's only 16, but that's Campbell. That's not like a major D1. That's awesome. But they're a really good program too. So stuff like that, man, you're just seeing across the board from teams all over the country. And so It's awesome to be able to just hop on. Again, like I've said, I'm a college baseball nerd, so I watch any and every game I possibly can.
Yeah, is there a team that you really like watching besides Arkansas? Just the way they play and how they do it, or maybe a coach and how they do it?
That's a good question. I'm big on the rivalries. I love the Florida-Miami rivalry.
Oh, yeah.
People may not realize there's always some crazy stuff that goes on in those games. But as far as teams that I like watching and how they go about it, and how they play, it's hard to say. I'm Hog. You know,
I know.
No one else.
Yeah.
Hate everybody else. Yeah, that's right. So
yeah.
I may have an answer possibly in a second, but I can't think of anybody right now.
Yeah, well, I was just curious because maybe I know we talked about Florida and O'Sullivan once, and and I know Dave Van Horn has a lot of respect for him, and it seems like not to say the coaches don't have respect for each other, but there's always coaches, and they seem like they always respect the ones that are kind of more like them and how they approach the game and how they approach their team and everything. So. But I think that it's always easier, I think, to say of programs that you don't like watching and don't like seeing.
I could name a few of those.
Yeah, I'm sure they could. I think people probably guess some of those teams too. But Tyler, as always, man, we appreciate you coming on talking some ball with us. But before we get out of here, just Bank of Fayetteville, what you guys got going on right now? And I know that here in the downtown area, it's always great to come down here and see the historical district. But when people walk into the building of Bank of Fayetteville, man, what are they going to get?
It's one of those things. The building itself, I always tell people, I'm like, if you haven't seen it or come inside, just come by the square and just come look at the bank. It's awesome. It's old, historical. It's huge inside. People probably don't realize how big it is, but again, like I've said in the past and last week, we are just your hometown community bank. I mean, we're the Bank of Fayetteville, so we are here to help the people of Fayetteville, Northwest Arkansas. We've got branches in Bentonville, and we're putting a new spot in Tawny Town. We've got Farmington, West Fork, Prairie Grove. We've got a lot of places. So we want to be that community bank for you guys, for people to just bank at, get loans with, just help you with whatever banking need you might need. And so we take a lot of pride in that. And we're really hitting the ground running this year. Really just looking to find really good people. We want to bank with anybody and everybody. We want to help people in this community. So.
That's Tyler Spoon, former Razorback and outfielder that is working only at the Bank of Fayetteville, and is all appreciated to the Bank of Fayetteville for making this segment possible each and every week, man. Have a great weekend, Tyler, and look forward to catching up with you, getting ready for SEC slate, man. It's going to be awesome.
I know. I appreciate it. Looking forward to it.